Today's explorations are assisted by Foreshadow Brown Ale from Sucrums Brewing in Winnipeg. They describe it simply as malty, nutty, and balanced. Smooth malt background and a slight fruity hop character. Looks like it might have a few characteristics of the oatmeal stouts that I like. This should be fun. So today I'm taking a closer look at this little board that I got in a recent mailbag. It calls itself an RP2350 bit board, and it is based on a Raspberry Pi 2350, but it is in a very different form factor than most Pi Picos. This is in the form factor of a BBC microbit. And yeah, the RP2350 chip is at the core of the Pi Pico 2, but the Pi Pico 2 looks nothing like that. So what's the difference? This one here happens to be available from the Canadian official dealership for Raspberry Pi stuff, and they want, $7 Canadian plus shipping. AliExpress is currently selling this thing for over $20 Canadian. It was 10 and change when I bought it back last year sometime, so what is the benefit to this thing? What is the difference, really? Well, the difference, as we can see, is the physical form factor. The BBC Microbit was designed as an educational tool for UK kids. The only thing that this has in common with that is the edge connector and a couple of buttons and having this little LED matrix in the middle. So this edge connector down here has 5 larger pins marked 0, 1, 2, 3 volts and ground, and those are intended for just clipping clip leads onto so that you can connect to things that you're controlling in the outside world. And then in between them there is these narrower pads which are standard edge connector positions, which are designed to go into a board like that, which I don't have one of. I've ordered one, it hasn't showed up yet. And those expose more different pins. There's ADCs, there's key A, which is in parallel with that. There's some GPIO there, more GPIO, key B, which is in parallel with that button. SCL, Mozzie Mizo, 3.3 volts in a couple places, SCO and SDA for I2C, and some extra grounds there. So you can build bigger projects with these if you have that expansion module. What else do we see on here? Well, there is the matrix here, which is set up in columns and rows. So there are 10 pins, 10 GPIO pins assigned to those, 5 assigned to the column, 5 assigned to the rows. And then there's these series resistors in the column lines, so off the bottom of each one of those going up to there, so that current limits the LEDs as you would expect. On the back side there are individual pads here that go to the rest of the GPIOs and expose them, and a few other connections like VSys and VBus. There's an ADC reference there, and yeah, another ground, and just the rest of the GPIOs. So those are available if you want to tack onto there. There may be a connector that goes with that and mates onto it. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in my explorations. What else is there to say about this thing? Well, let's take a look at what the real microbit looks like. Just remember what this shape is, and here's what an actual microbit looks like. There's 2 versions of it. This is the older version. Actually, there's the V1 and there's the V2 on front. So in similar, we have the edge connector down here. We have 2 buttons. We have 25 LEDs in a grid, in a matrix. But that's about it. What don't we have? We don't have a light sensor. We don't have a touch logo. We don't have a microphone. On the back, we don't have a radio or Bluetooth antenna or any kind of radio at all. We don't have a temperature sensor. We don't have a compass. We don't have an accelerometer. We don't have a single yellow LED. Oh boy. We don't have a speaker or a microphone. We don't have a red power LED. I don't think. We don't have a yellow USB LED. We do have power and reset buttons. So If you squint, they look the same, but other than that, they are quite a bit different. All this really is a Pi Pico 2 in a completely different form factor. So as long as you're treating it just like that, you'll be fine. But it's much more expensive than it needs to be for that. So what happens if we plug it in? It's got some code on it from new that just chases through the LEDs in the columns. And if you push button A, it lights up the top row. And if you push button B, it lights up the right-hand column. Other than that, that's our demo code. So from new, this thing comes with only a main Pi on it, which is the code that we saw. I've been experimenting. That's what these others are. I'll show you in a minute. But here is what that main Pi does. It does some imports, as you would expect from MicroPython. It defines the LED. It calls them columns, but it's columns and rows, really. So those are the actual columns. Those are the GPIO that's on the rows. It sets them all as outputs. It defines the buttons with pull-ups, so internal pull-ups. That's a nice feature to have. And then it sets some states on those LEDs and then runs through a loop. If you push button A, it does this, pulls that one low and the rest of them high. So only, what is that? That is the row across the top, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's the row across the top. And this one pulls the right-hand column. And that is the demo that we saw already. So I have taken that and modified it a little bit just for my own amusement. I've used most of the same stuff there, but I've just changed it to link some alternate columns back and forth and back and forth. And that looks like this, as expected. And here's the third program, well, my second one, I guess. All the same stuff up at the top, but when you push button A, it turns the first and third columns on. When you push button B, it turns the second and fourth columns on. Push button A does that, push button B does that. Woohoo. That was just me experimenting to prove that I still remembered how to do MicroPython. That's more than anything else. But other than that, it is just a normal Pi Pico, as I said. And there is a standard Pi Pico, the original one, not the version 2, for comparison. But you can get Pi Picos in other different form factors, and there's a couple that I've got. Neither of these ones have all of the GPIO broken out and available, but a bunch of them are. And the benefit of these ones is that they are a much smaller form factor, of course. But they still have the actual Raspberry Pi chip on them. These two are both 2040s, they're the older version. But they still do the job. I guess if you have other hardware in the BBC Microbit ecosystem, like those edge connectors and some peripherals and stuff, that might be a good reason to get this one. Although the original, the actual BBC Microbit, you can program in Python if you want. You can program it in CircuitPython if you want. You can program it with Scratch. You can program it with any number of different languages. And this being a Pi Pico, you can program it with Arduino or you probably put CircuitPython on if you wanted it. This one's got MicroPython on it. That's what I'm used to, so that's what I'm going to leave on it. But for $10 or $20 or $6 from an official source, or even less for these ones, which are Waveshare branded, but they are clones. They are using official Raspberry Pi silicone, I'm pretty sure, because that's cheap enough that there's no reason for them to knock it off. The 2040s can be had for less than $1 in bulk, so why would you want to bother ripping it off, really? Although who knows what the incentives for some of these Chinese clone makers are. Anyway, yeah, that's just a quick little look at this thing. For people that are used to the microbit environment, would that have any benefit at all, given how much less it has on it than a real microbit? I don't know. Questions or comments down below. Links as well to this thing and the official microbit, and whatever else I talked about. Anyways, quick video. That's all I needed to say about this thing. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.